Something that I often see is people sticking with handstand strength flexibility and avoiding the actual moving part, the flowing, the playing. Go outside to the park and play. Go to whatever you have available. So it can be a wall, it can be a rail. Go and see what happens. Basically think like a child, just try to play with it. Maybe put some music and say, okay, I have now 60 minutes where I try to do something with this bench. And when you're doing that and not like busy in the phone, stuff will just pop up.
And with that, welcome to the first episode of Moving Mindset. We have a very special guest today. His name is Yuval, and Yuval helps people improve the way they use their bodies. He combines the knowledge that he acquired through years of practicing dozens of movement disciplines and being certified as a medic, sport therapist, and as a personal trainer. He also works with Matthew Smith as a coach in the Mobility and Flexibility Toolkit. Yuval, so amazing to have you here. How are you doing?
Good. Amazing to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So, yeah, like you said, I help people improve the way they use their bodies. Basically, I grew up as a very active kid. So I always was training in at least 2 or 3 disciplines. It was a lot of martial arts, basketball, football, all of this stuff, parkour, literally a lot of things. When I was changing, I was going and changing every few years. So basically, I grew up developing a very rich movement intelligence and vocabulary. And as an adult, basically, I understood that I'm interested in the movement itself. So I continue to travel and to study around the world with a more principle-seeking approach, basically looking for what I could take from one discipline and apply it in another, and basically into day-to-day life. And today I'm constantly learning and teaching and sharing my insights and basically helping people to improve the way they use their body. And also throughout this journey, I came across Matthew Smith. And today we also work together, like you said, developing the Mobility and Flexibility Toolkit. So this is kind of my background.
Yeah, cool. That's actually also how we met, right? So I attended a workshop of you guys, and it's amazing. Like later on, you can also share a little bit about the work and promote it, because I think it's like literally the greatest piece of advice out there that I've encountered around like all the topics. And what right now is like you're still teaching actively right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is your work? What do you teach right now?
So basically, it's a combination of a few things. In the last 2 years, I did basically a deep dive into Tai Chi, Qigong, and Kung Fu, kind of training it all together, and at the same time, Capoeira. And at the moment, a lot of my approach for moving is based on these two kind of aspects. So I'm taking a lot of principles from these main disciplines and also from stuff from the past and transferring them to moving freely in the space. So kind of training basically private people and in movement gyms, people they want to learn how to move. So I bring all the concepts from other disciplines and apply it into moving.
Yeah, amazing. So what I hear is that you practice multiple martial arts. I'm curious as to like, are you practicing them at once, or did you practice them one after the other? Like, how do you juggle, let's say, so many disciplines? Like, what does your training look like? Do you do everything every day, or you get the question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, the way I structure my training is through phases. So I write them down based on a few things. First, it's what I need, which is more of the linear stuff. If it's a flexibility, strength, basically stuff that I need to focus on in order to improve the way I move, like the physical part of it. And the other part is the stuff that I want to do or I'm interested in, which is more the movement discipline concept. So these two things combined with the logistics. So where I am, for how long, what equipment and teachers do I have. So basically every time that I'm training, I try to incorporate the flexibility, strength, all of this stuff with the movement disciplines, where at the same time, I'm trying to do them which they won't interfere much and actually will kind of help each other to grow. So I'm not doing like a lot of things at the same time. I will choose one discipline and I will study it for, it can be a few months, it can be a year. Again, like I said, the logistics have a big part. So if, for example, in the capoeira, I was training for a few months in a really cool group here in Tel Aviv. And then I traveled a little bit. So I was training a little bit less capoeira, also by myself. Then a few months after, I was here for a few more months, and basically the logistics influenced it also. And also, it comes with moods and with times. Not all the time you have kind of the mindset to practice some deep stuff like Tai Chi and Qigong. You really need to be in this mindset. And also combining what I'm doing, other stuff in life. So yeah, this is basically how I plan it through phases that it can be 2 months, it can be a year, constantly changing and adapting over time.
That's a really cool, and I hear that you actually, and that I hear a lot of successful people in whatever field they do it. You plan your workouts. So how can I imagine? Like, do you write your own plans, training, and then you execute them? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so I do write my own stuff for what I said, for mainly the flexibility and the strength and stuff like this. And when it comes to what fields I want to research or discipline, I combine it into two things. One is I go into really, really good teachers and really good places, and I kind of let them lead me to their directions. Obviously, it's people that I did my research to get to them and I trust them. And then I have the stuff that I'm researching by myself, which again, I'm taking from inspiration and stuff from all of the disciplines, where I basically bring the concepts together. And so I have in my program, it can be, let's say, Sunday and Wednesday, I can do capoeira. And then Tuesday, Friday, I have like a research block where I go and find out a quiet place and do my thing.
Like, I can also say the times in my life where I had a guided training plan that is like, okay, this at that time, your brain, of course, I'm not always in the mood, let's say, to perform at my best, but it's easier to just show up because okay, I don't have to think, what do I do today? It's just go in there, turn your brain off, execute, and try to be on point. And those were the times that I experienced the most growth, let's say, in my own practice, in my abilities. And I would be interested in like some insight into your sort of training philosophy. Like, how do you train, man? How do you train? What is your philosophy?
Mm-hmm. So philosophy it's a big word. The way I structured it before, it's a combination of things that I need that not always I want to do them. For example, I want to dive deeper into acrobatics. So there are a few things I want to get my ankles and my knees and all the area there a little bit stronger, and it's stuff that not always I would want to do. It's a combination of stuff that I need to, based on stuff that I want to and I'm interested into. It sometimes can be hard, to commit to stuff that you don't necessarily want to do, but after you see the results, it's just you understand how much it pays off. Another big part is to look back, to always look back and see where I started. It can be in the movement journey. So I really like to kind of sit once in a while, look at videos from the beginning, same from the flexibility training or any strength skill that I'm practicing. So this is a big part of it, of looking back and seeing where I were and where I want to be, measuring, seeing if I'm actually progressing. So all of that. And what I said before about planning and all of that, so I'm a big believer, and I'm a planned person. I like to set the road and to follow it, but obviously there is life and stuff happens and shifts. So there is also always adaptation on the way, on the path. So I do like to plan, to follow that route when there's like an unexpected thing, to kind of recalculate and plan the next one. Another thing is I feel that the planning doesn't always have to be like a really, really straight line. It can be more of a broad direction. And it's, for example, with what I do today. This is why I like to define it is I help people improve the way they use their bodies because I do it through multiple ways. So it can be through teaching them principles from Tai Chi or Qigong on how to transfer energy, how to move the body more efficiently. It also can be helping them with a flexibility skill or a strength skill. Also with an injury or with a soft tissue problem. I'm also a therapist. So this is why I love working with people and I love sharing knowledge and I love helping people improve the way they use their body. So it's kind of not a one thing, one direction. I kind of direct really broad. And then throughout the path, I'm kind of readjusting, recalibrating all the time. This is kind of the big picture of how I work, how I plan, how I see the training, the practice, and in general life.
I love that. That's like amazing because the more I progress in my journey, the more I also see this like, okay, it's important to have like a broad direction, but if you're too rigid in your and there's no room to the left or to the right, like wiggle room to make sudden spontaneous changes, it can get too rigid and like stiff. But if you also have no direction at all, it's just like whatever, you're not making any progress, you're not getting anywhere. So I love that you say I have a direction, but it's also open and prone to changes because life happens, no? It just gets in the way sometimes. And you said that you work with people and you help them achieve, for example, skills, let's say the handstands. I mean, that's what I do, but that's why it came to mind. And I have a question according to that. What are common misconceptions, like in general, that keep popping up especially when working with beginners who go down this path of movement? Let's say they want to learn skills such as the handstand push-up, or they want to get more flexible, or whatever it is. Like, what are some common misconceptions that you encounter?
So the biggest thing I noticed when people starting to get into the field of movement as a whole, basically, I don't know if to call it a misconception, but something that I often see is people sticking with handstand strength flexibility and avoiding the actual moving part, the flowing, the playing. And I know that it's easier said than done, especially in the beginning, you can feel lost. So I have a few suggestions here actually, which one is to look for a good group and teacher and community. And the movement field and the movement community is getting bigger and bigger. If before you couldn't find it in many places, now there's a lot of places that you can find. So first is what I said is to find a good teacher. A good community is super important. The second thing is to go to the movement classes, but also to step out of the movement culture. Basically, what I mean is to go to classes that are not defined as movement, to go to classes that, for example, capoeira, to go for dance, or basically whatever that you are attracted to. It can be also climbing, it can be acrobatics, can be anything. And the third thing, which again, through traveling and meeting people that they're saying that they are practicing movement, and they are, but again, I don't see a lot of people that going outside and actually playing. Like it's something that I did heard before from also a lot of people that trained under me, and basically that they feel kind of lost in this part. So another advice would be just to go outside to the park and play. And what does it mean? Is go to whatever you have available. So it can be a wall, it can be a rail. If you're lucky, you might have a parkour part close to you or something like this. Basically, just go and see what happens. And see what happens. You can go to a wall and see, you can be bored and you can start pushing the wall and see how the energy reflects back in you. You're flying backward, or kick with it, or trying to roll onto the wall. Basically, think like a child. Just try to play with it. You can take a ball outside, and the big thing will be don't be afraid to be the weirdo. So he happened to me in the beginning. I was training and I was going to the park, and if it's from meditating or to kind of doing weird thing with the spine and stuff like this, I was embarrassed and I didn't want to. I didn't do it as, how do you say it? Basically, the mind goes all the time. You're trying to be focused in what you're doing, and your mind goes to other people and how they see me and how they perceive me, and especially if it's a more closed place like in the gym. So it's something that if you just push through push through it and you start slowly. So you say, I'll just move the head a little bit weird this time when I have kind of a neck pain, then maybe a little bit the spine, and then you can get to the point where you warm up in the gym full of people to the squat, and basically you're twerking and doing some weird stuff in order to warm up properly and kind of move everything based on what you feel and not based on how it looks or what people will think. So this will be kind of, if I summarize it, is to look for movement groups and communities, to also get out of groups and classes that they are called movement, and to go to different disciplines, and to just go yourself and play and kind of force yourself to go without the phone, or maybe put some music on like airplane mode and say, okay, I have now 60 minutes where the only thing I do is try to do something with this bench. And when you're doing that and not like busy in the phone and stuff like this, stuff will just pop up. Stuff will come up, and it's a matter of practice. So just going there, putting yourself in the scenario, in the situation, that will happen.
It's amazing because when you talk, like the question, for example, right now for me popped up like, okay, you're talking about play, because I also experienced that. As soon as I dove into this sort of handstand bubble, it's all about, okay, straight arm strength, bent arm strength, mobility, and handstands. That's it. And I started doing this exactly as you said, like implementing play, just putting on music and doing some soft acrobatics on the floor. And now the question popped up, okay, how would you start? And then you just explain it without me having to ask it. I love that. So I'm already having a lot of fun doing this interview. And yeah, I feel like what you also said reflects a lot in movement or in anything in general, right? Like in the beginning, it's always going to be hard. There's going to be resistance. And it's all about having this stoic sort of mindset of like, okay, I'm going to be embarrassed. Maybe I'm going to get angry or frustrated or whatever, but it's going to improve. It's going to get better. It's not always going to be like this. And to just sort of stick with it, right? And right, or connecting to that, like we all have off days sometimes, right? Like motivation is not reliable. It's not always that we want to do things. So my next question would be like, how do you deal with these off days, or like how do you make sure you stay on track? How do you show up daily, even though on days you don't really want to?
It's a very good question, very interesting one. And like you heard before, I like to divide it to the more building the body part of the strength, flexibility, and stuff where I have sets and reps where the kind of the exercises are written ahead. The session is already planned. It's a little bit more easy, not in the beginning, but now after years of doing that, it's a little bit more easy. And the reason is I know that from past experience, a lot of times when I feel down or when I feel just tired, I tell myself, go there, warm up, and do the first set. Just do one, and as you go and warm up, and you can be like, take your time with it, and you start the first one, and then the second set, and then basically you're getting pumped up and building up. And some of my best training sessions were in these days where I was like, no way I can even do one chin up today, and I did like PBs and stuff like this. So for the structured training, it's already written, it's already think like it's already there. Just go there and start easy, just warm up, do a set or two, and see. And sometimes it's actually not the day, and sometimes it's fine to go home. If you just went to, if it's in your home, in the park, or in the gym, and you just warmed up and did 1 set, 2 sets, and you really feel that it's not the day, that's also fine. And it's also important to know and to recognize that I don't like when people like, no, just always do it no matter what. I don't see it like this. And there's days that you're really, it can be from others' life stuff that are stressful, or maybe you're overtraining, or etc. etc. But this is for the structured type of training. And by the way, structured type of training can be also, I mean, if I go to a capoeira class, I don't need to think too much on what is going to be there, because I'm just going and the teacher tells me what to do. And also there, it's actually, in this situation, it's even a little bit more, I don't know if to call it scary or stressful, because when you go to the gym, you can cut in any moment and just go home. But when you go to a class, you don't want to stop in the middle of the class. But same for this. Sometimes I will, maybe I will skip the class today. I had a long day. I'm super tired. No, let's go. Let's just go there. And again, some of my best sessions or classes were in these days. And if I go to the unstructured work, which can be if you're doing your research, if it's playing outside, stuff like this, is basically go and see what comes out. And also in days when I feel amazing, I sometimes go, like I told you, I have these blocks of research when I go, okay, this is when I'm going to now practice spinning, for example. And sometimes I'm coming with the mindset of practicing spinnings, and I end up laying on the ground and doing a breathing meditation session of an hour or something, because this is what I wanted. This is what my body wanted this day. This is what came out, basically. I can go and decided I'm going to practice some cool acrobatic move, but in the end I'm practicing rolling on the floor, or maybe it ended up in a different way. So in the more unstructured work, where sometimes you do have a goal, sometimes you don't, in the days that you feel again off, just see what comes out. See what comes out. It's really, you don't know, like you don't know what you're going to think in 1 minute or in 1 second, and you don't know what is going to come out in that session. And yeah, this is the way I see it. This is the way I do it.
I love that. So basically, what you're saying, if I understand it correctly, which is also pretty similar to what I'm like discovering right now or in the last years, to just like not focus on the whole task, but just make it as easy in your head as possible. Exactly as you said, like I'm gonna warm up and I'm gonna do 1 set, and like most of the initial resistance will be sort of broken by the point you just do 1 set and you feel like, okay, now I'm already here, I might as well just continue. And I feel like that's also what it means to basically show up daily and to be like, okay, I recognize like I'm a being that has emotions, that has sometimes a shitty day, but I am not my emotions and I am not the shitty day. Like even though some things are like getting out of hand right now, I can still put in my best, and one day the best might be 100% and the other day the best might be 30%. Still you can go and work with the 30%, even if it's just exactly as you said. I show up and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna lay on the ground now and just breathe for 1 hour. Do you have any sort of meditation practice? Like I heard you do qigong, which is also, I would say, like akin to yoga, no, like a moving meditation sort of. Like I've not practiced much qigong, but I've seen and heard about it. Like, do you meditate, or like how do you maintain your mind clean?
Yeah, so it's it's something I'm practicing for a few years now, and it's like a lot of things. It's an endless thing that every time I kind of get an insight of, wow, I know how to meditate, but few weeks or months after, I'm like, no, I cannot believe that this is what I did until now. I try at least once a day to sit down or to lay down without anything, at least for 10 minutes once a day. So kind of a meditation where you're not doing anything, just breathing. You can call it also like non-sleep deep rest or something like this. And the other part, the other type is the moving meditation, where it can be the qigong is actually it helps getting into that flow state because it's very repetitive. You're doing a kind of a pattern and you're following it, and it's the same pattern over and over and over, and you can change, but when you do it over and over and over, you're starting to notice a lot of stuff that you cannot always notice. And once I started implementing that into the movement, into when I move freely, so when I just have a piece of floor and I go at it, it completely changed the way I am moving or what I am when I'm doing this thing. And it's crazy how much it's different when there are people around you, when you are doing it in the park, where a lot of other things are kind of interrupting you. But when I do it, for example, in a quiet scenario, this is where I get the I come up with things that I could never come up before without understanding how did I do that? Combining things, I can go and roll somehow and then exit in a certain type of flip direction, something that is not defined. This is where this is the occasion where I was like, wait, so the result of these patterns, they are nice, and I treat them as kind of a roller coaster track. And instead of following them and doing one plus two plus three plus four, and then like improvising, but actually going from one to the other, so I treat them more as a roller coaster track, but instead of sitting down connected to it and riding it, I'm flying in between and around. So I do kind of when I'm in that flow state, I come up with things that later on I'm like, how what happened there? I don't even know. And it happens also when I practice Kung Fu. So with my teacher, he's basically he always telling me that the best kind of reactions are the ones that you didn't know how to do it before. Like it spontaneously came up and went out there because you are in that flow state and you are focused and aware, and a big part of it is not to want too much is in acrobatics or in everything. It's like my girlfriend Ophir, she was practicing backflip or handspring, and her teacher Simba, I also train with him capoeira. It's a very amazing mover. So we told her, want less. When you want too much and you are kind of stressful, I want to do this and I'm super focused, you're not aware. You're not aware. It's like in the kung fu when we are fighting, we're trying to come over the the need to kind of be focused and tense and all of that, because when you are relaxed and more kind of you can perceive more, everything is more noticeable. So, coming back to your original question, my meditation practice today would be I'm trying to do every day kind of a lying down, seated, not moving meditation, or realistically, like 10 minutes. I wish I could do more. It doesn't happen. And I treat my research and my movement as meditation, basically. This is what it is.
I love where the conversation went. Like I wanna connect to that, because getting in this sort of flow state, in this sort of leaving the conventional practice, sort of, as to say, like these bumper glides from, let's say, bowling, where the ball stays in between. I feel like that's like the best way to go. But I also feel like to get to that point, you have to really get familiar with the forms. Let's say, for example, what you said in capoeira, you have to get to know the movements first before you can start improvising and letting sort of a higher consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, take over. And so question that would rise up is like, what advice would you give people, especially beginners, who have no idea and they want to get to that point where they can start sort of improvising, what advice would you, for example, give yourself if you were at the start of your sort of movement journey to progress the most safe, efficient, and most fun way?
Mhm. So again, another amazing question. It's a very interesting topic of what you should focus on. I really think it divides to many layers, but if I kind of simplify it, is are you doing it for a side hobby, kind of a fun side hobby? It can be 1 hour, 2 hours a week, or it's what you want to do in life. If you're dealing with, you want to learn it, to teach it, because I also meet a lot of people that this is what they want to do in life. They want to move, they want to teach. So the way I will structure it is, if you want to do that for a living, for basically this is you, I would recommend to focus first on building the body. Like when I understood that this is what I want to do, I understood that my flexibility is holding me back. Like I'm doing positions and stuff, and it's just my body is fighting against me. So I invested most of my time, like my main focus for a few years, and still now a big part of my focus is flexibility. I'm naturally more stronger and less flexible. For other people, it can be the strength. For less lucky people, it can be both. And so focusing on that, on building the foundation, because I can see sometimes people that they are practicing. I come back again to the capoeira. They can practice capoeira for 15, 20 years, and they're in a nice level. And then I can see someone that is way stronger and flexible than them, and in few sessions or few way less years, let's say, reaches a way higher. I wouldn't call it level, but can perform the patterns or the moves way more easily, can learn faster. And so this is also a big part of it. When you don't have limitations from your body, you can learn faster. Like whatever is left is to learn. But if I want to learn a flip and I'm not so flexible, or the opposite, I'm not strong and I cannot jump hard enough, I will need to compensate. I will need to do this, that, and it will make the learning experience much harder. So again, coming back to, if you want to do it for a living or for like a main thing of your life, build like focus on building a very very good and solid foundation. Now it doesn't mean that you need to do it 24/7. You can build the foundation with little volumes and like plan it, and if you do it correctly, it's amazing. And the second thing is to choose one or two disciplines that you are attracted, like I said before, and go there. I think it's a good place to start in places that call themselves movement groups, that they are focused about the movement things. It's varied, and every place will be teaching another thing. Some places will go deeper, some places will keep it at the level of strength, flexibility, handstand. But I would start there, um, and then go out to the disciplines. And for people that don't do it for a living and it's a hobby, I would still recommend to improve the building the body thing. But because if you have, for example, 2 hours a week, it's not like you're gonna, okay, I'm gonna do that for 5 years until I'm super flexible and then I'm going to start. No, what you can do is maybe do one session, or do 30 minutes on one day. So each person should find his balance. I can say for myself that I do it also in phases. So I had a very, very long phase of my main goal was flexibility. If I'm talking about the last kind of 2.5, 3 years. And then sometimes, again, it can be dependent on the logistics. I was like, okay, now I'm going to do 3 months where I focus mainly on movement disciplines, and kind of bring down the volume of the building the body part. And again, it's not always linear. You can change it. You can do maybe 6 months that you focus more on building the body, and another 3 months of focusing more on the disciplines. But my advice is don't go full speed on both. This is where injury comes. This is where like you're just getting fatigued and trashed. There are people that do it, and it does work for some people, but I think that for the vast majority it just doesn't work. This is where a lot of people get injured, or they're like just drop it and say, ah, it's not for me. And I think it is. It's for everyone. Just you have to follow the right volumes and to know how to combine these things together, which is simple but not simple.
Yeah, there was many points, and I love like you're not just spitting out knowledge, it's more like wisdom. Like what separates knowledge and wisdom is like the one is just intellectual and the other one is just true experience. And like only from how you speak and how you answer the questions, I can tell that you have a lot of wisdom in this area. So what I hear most was like get a teacher or somebody who really knows, who has went the way. Because what I experience a lot of the time when people ask me, hey, how do I learn the handstand? I tell them, hey, get a teacher. And they say, no, I want to learn it myself. Of course you can learn it yourself, but maybe it takes you 3 years instead of half a year. You can just save so much time. And then the other one was like focusing on your weak spots, right? Like what are your weak links? What is actually holding you back? Because it's always easy to train what's fun, like what you can already do. Like our mind functions like that. Oh yeah, okay, I'm good at pull-ups. I'm not so good at push-ups. I'm gonna do pull-ups today. Next day, okay, today pull-ups, and then the next day, pull-ups. So that's also another one that I also noticed. Like when I focus on stuff that's actually weak and is not on par, as soon as I focus on that, like let's say you take off 3 months of the other stuff, you're not gonna lose all you build up. It's still gonna stay at that level. And also like the not overdo it part. Like I also personally know one or two people that are like 6 7 days a week, full training, 5 hours a day, and they're golden. But if I did that, I like what you said with the feeling thrashed, and like I just come out of a circle where I really went all in on strength, and I made some good gains, but still like most of the day I was just like, oh, I was either fatigued from the workout or fearing the workout. And you said that you focused 2 or 3 years on flexibility, and maybe you can share like some anecdotes, some key points of your personal journey where all of a sudden your progress just took off and skyrocketed.
Coming back to kind of the mid part of my story where I understood it, I want to do that. This is my passion. This is what I want to do with my life. And I understood that I needed the best tools to research, and my tools are my body. So I needed to get the best, basically limitless body. And like I said before, the strength was mainly there. It was about the flexibility. So I searched online for the best flexibility, the program that I could find, and I encountered the MATS program, the Mobility Flexibility Toolkit. I got it. I started training with it. That was amazing, like nothing else I've seen before. And actually, a few months after, I was training in a movement gym in Mexico, and Matt was there to kind of learn the movement thing. And we got connected and we started working together, and until today. So, obviously, a big part of my knowledge about the flexibility world, it's like basically from Matt, and a really amazing person, very smart. So, a big part of it is the approach of first is assessing, so working by what is limiting you and not following kind of a generic routine. And because you're doing that and focusing on your weak links and your limitations, you can actually also train way less than what most people do or think. When I told people I got my side split for basically training it once every 5 days, they were shocked. And now I'm working on my squat mobility and also the pancake. I'm taking it a few steps forward, and I'm doing it between once every 5 to 7 days, and I'm progressing. The working with Matt also changed the way I look about training volumes and stuff like this. That also it linked to me in the movement world or in the other disciplines that I did. So nowadays, for example, when I write my own program, so let's say I am doing my strength. And if we take the classic thing of push pull legs, I know that I have 3 sessions a week where I'm doing capoeira or moving, and I'm using a lot of, I'm pushing a lot. So maybe in this phase where I know I'm pushing a lot anyway, it's like 4 to 6 hours a week of using the hands and pushing. And I'm really strong at pushing. So I'm using a lot of that when I move. So I won't do, at the moment, I don't even do any pushing strength because I know I have such a high volume already, because the way I move and what I practice currently. So this is also, I think, a really, really big factor, to know how to combine the linear training, the building the body training, to fit what you are currently doing. And so this is another big component. So if I go back to the question, it will be basically understanding your individual limitations, practicing that. Yeah, this will be the biggest things that really change the way that I'm able to learn. And beyond that, just to sit comfortable on a chair. If I'm honest, I was very, very unflexible. And before, like, naturally, my sister, she's 16 and she cannot reach the floor. And this is how shitty genetics I have. But there is a way to pass it, because I'm not flexible naturally. I meet a lot of people that they are basically, yeah, I just did this exercise, I just went to yoga a little bit, and I now have all splits. It can work for some people. Unfortunately, I had to work really, really hard for it, and still is. So yeah, these are my insights about the flexibility. And again, I really, really recommend investing your time in improving the flexibility and the strength and your weak links if you want to take the movement thing one step ahead and really, really take it to the next level.
Those are very, very valuable insights. And just some funny story that I also remember. I was in a yoga teacher training in India, and there was one girl, and in the beginning she was like, splits, I would never be able to do that. And like, as you said, like we did 1 week of like just some yoga, not even specific splits. And then she does the full splits. And she's like, yeah, I did gymnastics for 2 years when I was a kid. That's just how it goes sometimes. Like some people just are naturally inclined, or they did something as a child. But like, if I would compare myself to her, I would cry, because I'm also like you. I put on mass easily and strength, but flexibility takes a little more time to build. And it's just like it's way better for your sanity and your peace of mind to just focus on yourself and the cards you got dealt. Because if you look around, you always find somebody that is more gifted, more talented, whatever. So that is a really good advice that you gave. And yeah, to bring it to an end slowly, I have another question about recovery for you. Like, how do you, because you train a lot, like from what I hear, you move a lot, you use your body a lot, and yeah, like how do you recover? How do you wind down? How do you get sort of a balance to all the yang fire energy, to the yin, to the slow cooling?
So, like I explained before, I won't dig deeper again on this. Is I really like to plan my training. If it's the like building the body and the movement training that I'm doing, the disciplines, to not be too much. For example, I won't put in one phase 3 sessions of handstand, 2 sessions of acrobatic, three of capoeira, where there's like so much load on the wrist. And if I do it, I will make sure I'm treating it properly. So I think the first thing would be to plan it accordingly. And the second thing is to treat, basically to make sure you're healing and recovering. If the fundamental, it's like the obvious, but people still not do it enough, is to sleep really good, to drink a lot of water, to eat. Like, I don't need to expand on that too much. Another thing is to go to treatment, to hands-on treatment. I try to do it very, very often. Luckily, I have Ophir and me. We're both like therapists, so we try to help each other. Each one does it on themselves when they have injuries, and to help each other. So I'm lucky from that point. Yeah, so it will be the basics of planning accordingly, what you're going to do, then all the fundamentals, sleeping, eating, drinking, all of that, plus treating or yourself if you know how to do it, or going to someone to, it can be a sport massage, a Thai massage, whatever, and really find someone good therapist and try to kind of stay on it all the time. If you're pushing and practicing and loading the body all the time, make sure you're also pushing the recovery side of it. It's a full-on working on recovering. It's such a big aspect.
It's almost like a whole nother branch of training, right? A whole different practice, sort of. And also, I noticed for myself, everybody knows it, sort of, but still, like once I noticed so hard when I have good sleep hygiene, like I don't look at my phone before sleep. I do something like yoga or something before it to really calm down. It's just a whole nother world when you wake up the next morning and feel like a person actually, and not just like, what year is it? Like, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And an interesting part about that is it's not linear. It's not like I have a fixed number of hours. Yes, I need 6, I need 9. It's really based on, it can vary throughout the week. If I train really, really hard today, maybe I'll sleep 9.5 hours. Maybe if I didn't train for a few days, I can be fine with 8 or 7.5. And maybe someone hearing it and like, oh my God, I'm sleeping 6 and 5. And these are my standards for myself. Yeah, but same for food, how hungry I am. Like you have a vision of the size of the plate you're usually eating. And this is something I've been working on for the past few months. Of it's not the same size all the time. Maybe today I like, even in the morning, maybe this morning I'm craving for a fucking huge plate. And then in the afternoon I just want to eat like a few snacks. Kind of hearing your body and listening to what you actually want, and this is really a big part of it, being familiar to know yourself and to be able to listen to yourself what you need.
Amazing. Yeah, again, this theme of fluidity and spontaneity and just like having an open mind comes up. I love it. Yuval, thank you so much for the interview. I feel like that was so valuable. I had a lot of fun. Is there anything you would like to say, or maybe also like where can people find more of you? Where can somebody who wants to work with you address you?
Amazing. So first, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed the past hour. And there's two main places. So I invite you to follow me on Instagram, Yuval Garb, which is Yuvalgarb. You feel free to ask me any question about any topic. I'm really responsive and like to help anyone. And also sign up to my newsletter in my website, yuvalgarb.com, to know about all the events and workshops worldwide. Yeah, this is it. And thank you again for inviting me. It was a very amazing and fun conversation.
It's a pleasure, man. Until next time. All right, that concludes the episode. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please go and check out Yuval. He's honestly amazing and he can help you unlock the skills you want. Check out his links in the description below. And if you want to learn the handstands, get free access to my course, The Handstand Formula. Link also in the description below. Until next time.